Well, good morning, brothers and sisters at Grace Bible Chapel. Again, this morning we're going to continue through Paul's prayer in Colossians chapter 1. We've been using P words to describe each section. We've looked at the persistence that Paul had in prayer as he didn't cease to pray for the Colossians. We looked at his priority. What was his priority in prayer? We looked at the purpose of that priority. We also, yesterday, took a look at what was the real prosperity that comes from attaining what Paul is praying for the Colossians. And we're going to continue in that vein this morning. As in verse 10, we saw just the real true prosperity that comes, growing in the knowledge of God, bearing fruit in every good work. And just that's God at work in your life, and just how that is that's real prosperity, so much more than what the world would offer. And we're going to continue in that vein this morning to look at verse 11 of chapter 1, and this shows us what is real power. The power that comes from living a life that is pleasing to God. So let's take a look at Colossians chapter 1, starting at verse 11. Actually, let's read verse 10 to lead into it. So as to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. This is verse 11, says this, being strengthened with all power according to his glorious might for all endurance and patience with joy. And so this, brothers and sisters, is real power. Now again, this goes against what the world would tell us, doesn't it? Paul is praying that the Colossians would be strengthened with all power according to the glorious might of God. For what? To win a great victory? To be extremely successful? To have everything you do go right? To be the CEO of a company, to be the pastor of a big giant church. No, it's none of those things. Those would be the type of things that we would think. And we would think, well, power in ministry would be like real blows for the gospel, seeing hundreds of thousands saved. That's power, that's what we really need. But that's not the power that Paul's talking about here. He's very specific. He says, what is that? That glorious might, the power of God is yours so that you can endure. And that you can endure with patience and with joy. I want to just repeat that to let it sink in. So that you can endure with patience and with joy whatever life throws at you. When Jesus spoke to his disciples after his resurrection, or even the night that before he was betrayed and crucified, he spoke about how that they were going to face persecution. That the world hated him, the world was going to put him to death. You do the same for them. That you would hate them as well. That there would be a hard road ahead for them. And the book of Acts is clear on that. And for every story of Peter being, released from prison miraculously by an angel in the middle of the night, well, there's also the story of James, who was executed by Herod. And we know that each of the disciples were martyred in some way for their faith. That doesn't sound like a great victory, does it? And yet this is what Christ says, and this is what the prayer Paul has, that is real power. It says to endure with patience and with joy, to have joy in any circumstance. I remember hearing a story. It was an American pastor. I can't remember exactly what his name was, but he spoke of working with a Chinese pastor over in China who was the pastor of a small secret home church. And this Chinese pastor told the story of the one day that he wasn't home and the secret police burst in to his home, knocked down the door, and demanded from his wife that she tell them who the pastor of the church is and who all the members of the church is. And she refused. In fact, she kept saying over and over, "I'm the pastor, I'm the pastor." And they beat her. And they beat her to the point where she needed to be hospitalized, and very, very seriously, to within an inch of her life. And as this Chinese pastor is telling this story to this American pastor, the American pastor is thinking, well, there's got to be some like catch to the story, like he nurses her back to health, or there's some way that God uses this in a miraculous way to do something powerful. But that's not what happened. The Chinese pastor simply said to the man, he said, "I'm so proud of my wife that she was able to suffer like that for the cause of Christ." And that was it. No special resolution, no fancy end to the story. We kind of like the hero's journey, don't we? We like, the hero always, he starts off small and thinking he's weak, but then he goes through some struggle, or he gains some power, and he goes through some struggle, but he overcomes it in the end. He's victorious and he's the hero. But that's not the story that we're promised. But we are promised that God will be with us. We are promised that he will give us power, what really is true power. And that power is to rise above your circumstances, to endure through the hard times with patience and with joy. That, brothers and sisters, is real power. And that's the power that God offers us. And he offers it to us by being with us. I hope this has been an encouragement to you this morning. God bless, and have a good day.